Okay, perfect.
Great. So, I flew October 6th, suborbital with Virgin Galactic, not into orbit, but 3 minutes of weightlessness up to a height of about 54 miles was our peak.
Mhm.
The total time from like when the carrier ship released the spaceship to landing was about 20 minutes. So it's very quick. But yeah, the to see the planet like that is very much life-changing for me.
Yeah.
Oh, here's someone else. Hello, Anahid. There's Anahid. I don't know if I said that right. Um, Maybe I should introduce myself.
Yeah, that could work too.
Wait a couple minutes.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Um, so you have like a clean start point for the recording. So yeah, seeing the Earth like that, even though we weren't in orbit, is an amazing experience. You just don't understand. It's hard to understand. I don't think you can understand the planet, you know, in that kind of way, and understand the planet as it exists in its natural environment. When so anyway, so why don't I go ahead and start, I guess, with an introduction.
Yeah, okay.
And when you share any, people who kind of aren't aware of what's going on, we'll have
Yeah.
a more uh, what I
So, hi
do. Hey,
guys.
Eric.
Uh,
Uh,
so I guess I can
and
start.
anybody that wants to go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I didn't mean to like interrupt you. You can go on.
Oh, no worries. That happened. No worries. Time
Okay.
to tell. Yeah. So anybody who wants to open their video or unmute, glad to say hi. I'd love to have your questions. So as we, well, we should have. I'm glad to have plenty of time for that, and see what you're most interested in. So hey, my name is Ron Rosano. I'm in my home near San Francisco, California. And after a lifetime of enthusiasm about space, not as my job, which is managing apartments for a family business, but just as kind of a hobby and doing space uh, classroom activities with students since 1995, I came upon the chance to fly into space with Virgin Galactic and did so on a suborbital flight with them October 6th last year. So it's been coming up on 7 months now. Uh, yeah, Cindy, you were asking, like, does it, you've heard that going in space changes people. And yeah, I felt very much like with a very different perspective of our planet and of my life in many ways. And so let me share, a lot of people have asked you what was it like. Let me get uh, a good picture here, and I'll share. This picture I think does a better way of kind of showing what the experience is like than I could explain with words. So this is taken from a video. It's just a screenshot from a video that from a camera that's mounted at the window. And it's I went up without like a really specific agenda of trying to do this, trying to do that. My approach was just to be as open to the experience as I could be and just let the experience and the views bring to me whatever they were going to bring. At first I thought, oh yeah, let's be interesting to look for landforms. Like, will I see, mountain range or deserts or rivers and things? And then I decided, no, let's just let it happen and see. That was a part, well, a lot, because I read from a quote from Dave Scott, who walked on the moon in Apollo 15, and he was at an exhibit of prints and of images from the moon, and people asked him, "Gee, Dave, some people say the moon looked kind of orange. Others said it looked kind of brown. What do you think? And he said, you see what you expect to see. You have to open up. And that made a lot of sense to me. And so instead of like looking for things on the ground and just be open to it. So I was really trying to be as open as possible. And I was in space for 3 minutes. We're weightless for 3 minutes at a height of 54 miles. It's about 200, a little less than 290,000 feet. So almost 10 times as high as a commercial jet. But, you can see from the picture well above, the surface of the planet. And, we're in the vacuum of space. Um, and, I was transfixed by that thin blue line, that narrow blue line that you see on the left-hand side. This, um, that blue is our atmosphere. It's shockingly thin in relation to the surface of the planet. It's just this thin shell of a layer, and everything alive on Earth is within it. And the camera, the image doesn't capture the way your eyes do, but to me, it was just like a vivid, vibrant, almost electric blue. And I thought about this idea called the overview effect, where people have a changed perspective from seeing the Earth in space. And part of that is recognizing the interdependency and and connectedness of all life on the planet. And you look when I look down on it and see how thin the atmosphere that makes a lot of sense to think about the planet in that way. Um, and like some other things, just looking out at the black, empty vastness of space was it's just very empty. And it made me think that wow, it's like that our planet exists is an amazing thing. It's a unique thing, an incredibly unique thing. It's like here in all this emptiness. And if you look at this, the scale of the Earth and compared to the sun and the size of the solar system, the planets are very, very tiny and very, very far away, not like you see in pictures. Um, and about the star and how far it was away from other stars in the galaxy and all the other galaxies, it's like uh, an incredibly unique thing that the planet exists in a way that supports life, in the first place. And then equally amazing is that planet humans have evolved enough to get to a point where we're intelligent and then can understand all this.
Mhm.
It's like, wow, it's such a unique thing. And, for me, I just feel very lucky to have done it. I feel like it's such a gift to have been able to see the planet like that. There's been 100 people in space since all of history, since the first person in 1961, out of like 7 billion, 8 billion on the planet. So I feel like a sense of needing to share this idea and these thoughts. And, I'm glad to have you guys, as an interested audience. And because I think people need to know, you need just for your day-to-day existence, you need food, water, shelter, sleep. But for humans in the long run, I think we need to realize we're on this planet together. And that's our spaceship. It is a spaceship. And, everything's connected on it. And, this fighting and killing that we do is not helpful to keeping us alive and
Yeah.
going in the long term. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to have gone. I'm excited for people your age to go. I think this is just the start. This is just the start. This is commercial spaceflight, where for the first time ever, people from all over the world could buy a ticket to go to space. And I'm sure you all will have the chance. And probably, I would say for sure, at a much younger age than I was when I flew, which is 63. So, um, keep that in your sights. If you're interested in it, that opportunity will be there at some point for you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
And I think that's also like a very interesting point that you brought up because being an astronaut, it started with um, putting someone on the moon. And to be an astronaut, you needed military experience, you needed a lot of credentials and flight hours. And nowadays, you see amazing people from a lot of diverse backgrounds being able to go up
yeah,
there. Yeah. So I think
yeah,
that's pretty unique.
yeah, yeah.
And if you guys have
It's
any questions, feel free to put them in chat, definitely. Or I think it's okay if they unmute too, so that works.
I have
yeah.
a
No, I'd
question
love to hear
for
from
you.
you if you want. Okay, good.
So
Yeah, Mason,
I
go ahead.
know in the beginning you mentioned that you like run a family business, right? So how did
Yeah.
running that family business, how did you end up being like on a spaceship? That seems so like
Yeah,
distant
yeah,
that
they
you were
don't
able to do
connect
that.
exactly. Um, so yeah, my mom and dad my dad started a construction business in 1952 in San Francisco, and they were children of Italian immigrants, so they were first generation Americans, and they were just hardworking people in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and my dad passed away in 85, but we ended up taking care of managing apartment buildings that he built. Completely separate from that, I was born 1960 and grew up watching the moon landings. I was 9 when they landed the first time, and that was hugely inspirational for me. And to go outside at night and look up at the moon and think that, oh, hey, there's two guys walking around up there right now is like really kind of takes you out uh, into the universe. And I've always been curious. I mean, about the stars. So, I never thought I'd be able to go because astronauts were always, like City was saying, military test pilots. And then in the space shuttle era, you know, engineers with and doctors with multiple, multiple degrees. And it's like, and then they apply. It's very hard to get in. It's very hard to get selected. It's not easy to fly even when you get selected. So I just, when Virgin Galactic came along in 2004 and said, "Hey, we're going to start flying people to space," I was like, "Wow, it could be my chance." So part of it was just being focused and being aware of it, and part of it was like being careful and saving money. Part of it was being fortunate and to be in a position to, save money like that. When I bought my ticket, it was $200,000, which, and then they went up to 250 and then 450, and now I think 600. So that's not
Well,
the direction you guys would like to see, I'm sure. But you know, it's just a start. 10, 20 years, especially with spaceship. I have a spaceship, a Starship, the SpaceX
Starship, yeah.
Starship model there. I mean, that's the game changer, I think. If they fly that like they want to fly it, it's, you know, at like a order of magnitude or two cheaper to get to orbit.
Yeah, I'm sure as like the space
So
industry keeps growing, there's going to be more opportunities for us, definitely.
yeah. And that's another message for you is that if you're interested in being involved in the space industry, you could do it in any number of ways. Yes, they need pilots, engineers, but they also have people that are building spaceships with their hand that did like a 2-year trade degree after high school. Um, yeah, there's people that did an airframe and power plant course to learn how to operate airplane engines that adapted, those kind of avionics skills or mechanical skills into maintaining the spaceship. Um, there's people that work in regular office jobs, lawyers and personnel people, and those kinds of normal things that you see in every business. There's graphic artists who design the logo and do the website and create the web content. There's digital people that love networking, and they each space flight takes, I think they gather at least a terabyte of data off the spaceship. So there's people that maybe were gamers that know how to network computers that manage all that data for them now. because they've got a great at computers and maybe they have a computer degree. There's people in hospitality. There's a woman, Kendra, who's a barista at spaceports, and she makes coffee and drinks for people operating spaceships and flying to space. You know, so
That's incredible.
yeah, yeah. So it's yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting time. I'm
Just
excited for
like
you guys.
space itself, the space industry is just as vast.
Yeah. It's I feel like our minds are not programmed to understand the enormity of it. The sizes, distances. Yeah. It's just like beyond what we can imagine. I don't want to talk the whole time. So yeah, what other questions? Anything pop in your
You talked
heads?
about being able to see the Earth from your spaceship, is that the right term?
Yeah.
Uh, but you also had one of the highest vantage points that anyone's ever seen. Could you see the stars? And
No,
how well?
no. Yeah, you don't see stars or planets, interestingly, um, because your eyes adapted to the brightness. And the sun on the Earth's in daylight, the sun as it's coming off it is very bright. So like that picture I was sharing, um, I'm bathed in Earthlight is what it is. So I'm gonna show that again. So that light that's hitting me in the face is light that came from the sun, bounced off the Earth, and then hits me in the face. So it's Earth light, and it's the Earth's very bright, and your eyes, like in the daytime, get dilated and brightness adapted to bright conditions. Um, and then when you go out at night, your pupil opens up like 1 or 2 millimeters up to like 5 or 6 or maybe 7 millimeters. Um, so when your eyes like that, you could see. So if Galactic flew at night when the sun wasn't shining on the Earth, you could see stars. So hopefully that'll be an option when you guys fly.
Do they? Or is it daytime only?
Daytime only. They have capability. It had some unknowns that they'd rather not have. Finding, they could do it. It's vision, but having the visual adds a lot of safety margin. You could see the runway, you could see the horizon, all those kinds of things. We could see the moon, but not stars or planets. Um, so Isha, if I'm saying that right. Something I didn't expect to see, feel, experience in space. Um, yeah, let's think. There's a few. Like afterwards, I didn't expect this at all, but I'm not seeing the sky in the same way. Like I came down a couple weeks later and I looked out and I'm like, I'm not really thinking about the sky in the same way I used to because I go out, used to go out during the day. You kind of think the sky goes on for a long, long way, and you get part of the way up there if you're in an airplane, but it still goes on ways past that. But it's far. We were 54 miles, which on land is not far at all. You get that in an hour on a flight. But I'm looking at the sky and I'm have a sense of it with a limit to it now that I didn't realize before. Um, and something else I didn't expect to see or feel. Yeah, I think it's the sense of the planet and I came to think of it now as Earth in its natural environment. You know, it's like it's like you can't really describe a forest from only being inside the forest and never leave the forest. So it's like until you go out and look back on it as it exists as a whole, then you can't understand it completely. So there's a
Um,
couple of things.
I had a question about
Yeah.
kind of the sensation of going up in space.
Yeah.
Do you like were you like floating or did you know like where was down or like did your body kind of know like where you were spatially, if that makes sense?
Yes, very much. I had a very good sense of, the planet, or like where we were in the US, over New Mexico, mountain ranges, things like that. I was, the ship didn't really turn around so much. Yeah. So the ship's carried by a carrier plane, and then it's released, and then fires a rocket, goes forward, and then turns up and goes up. And then after the rocket turns up, they flip it over because all these windows are on the ceiling of the cabinet. So as after the rocket fires, the ship's it turns upside down and it's belly up until it hits the peak, the apogee. And then on its way down, it flips back over and comes belly first into the atmosphere. And it didn't turn around so much left, right, sideways at all. And I was on the right-hand side, so my view was always out to the west. I didn't see north towards the Rockies or south towards the Gulf of Mexico or east towards Texas at all. Um, so I had a pretty, pretty good feeling of, um, where we were and where we're going. uh, just depending on Kelly, our pilot,
Mhm.
to make the best flight possible. Let's see, I think I have a crew portrait here somewhere. The rocket ride is a pretty amazing thing. We had, yeah, since I was talking about the crew, mentioned Kelly, I'll also share her picture. We did a selfie on the spaceship after we landed. So this is the group of us. In the center middle is Kelly Latimer. She was our commander. On the left-hand side with the big grin is CJ Strico. This was his 9th time in space. Before time to his 10. He's been launched into space more than any other person in history. So I'm behind Kelly. On the right edge is Trevor Beatty, who's from the UK, advertising executive. Between me and Trevor is Beth Moses. She's an astronaut trainer for VG. This was her 6th flight. And then between Kelly and CJ is Namir Salim, first person from Pakistan to go into space. So there's 3 passengers and 2 pilots and an astronaut trainer. So yeah, like the rocket ride. I have a video of that too, if you'd like to see that.
Right.
I have video for my seat. And Isha, I see, is it similar to being like on a roller coaster? Yeah, in some ways, because you're accelerated, like it takes off and you're pushed back into your seat. And you do get a moment of weightlessness in a roller coaster is if you're like going up and then like start to fall down. But it's sustained when you're weightless in space, and we're like floating out of our seats for 3 minutes. Yeah, let's see. Let me find the one. Yeah, this is the video of me in my seat. So I can share that if you like. Yeah, it's 5 minutes if you want to take the time to watch the point from release to back in, and you could see the whole experience. It's actually not as long as you would want it to be. So yeah, let me share this and share the audio. Let me know if the audio, actually, oh wait, there it is, hold on. They move the button. Okay. Um,
Five, 3, 2, 1. Release, release, release. Fire. Fire.
did the audio come through okay?
Yep.
So the rocket burns for about a minute and they light it real quick. And you can see the reflection of the rocket on the tail boom in the back. And after the spaceship goes supersonic, like 800, said 900 miles an hour, it turns up. So we're feeling about 3.5, 4 Gs there in our seats. Not so comfortable, but manageable. I'd practiced that before in the centrifuge, which was really helpful. And the rocket burns for about a minute, and then I was just looking straight ahead
2.1 Mach. Trimming up.
and looking through the windows in front of the pilots, and just the sky just kind of goes black for you. So the rocket burns for about a minute and cuts off right about here at about 130,000 feet.
You are clear to unstrap.
So once the rocket motor cuts off, you're weightless. And I wanted to take my glasses off so I could get the clean view and take my earplugs out. And you can see the ground's getting farther and farther away.
Unlocking feather. Copy that.
So that the unlocking feather means they tilt those booms in the back of the spaceship up. So when it comes back in, it comes in the way they want it. So I just wanted to stay at my window. I didn't float around or do somersaults. I was definitely not going to toss candy.
Alright, that's coming down. Roger. Alright, RCS coming on.
And now the spaceship's turning a little more belly up with the tail booms coming up. And I take a moment to go to the upper window, which is actually right here. I let go of the spaceship and just floated.
Welcome to space.
And just floated without any influences. I've not found myself blinking this at all. So I went there, you can see Trevor in the back. I went to an upper window for a minute, but decided I liked the look, at the horizon and the limb of the earth, the edge of earth, more than I liked looking straight back down.
Apogee.
So that's our high point, 280,000 feet, 288. So that whole time we're coasting from 120,000 to 280. And now we're starting to, we come to a nice slow stop, and then we start to drift back down. And here I went to an upper window because as the spaceship turns around again, it does 180 degrees. If I'm looking at the lower window, my view goes from looking straight down to across the earth to this limb of the earth to looking straight up.
Spaceport in sight. Yep, good view. Approaching re-entry. Return to your seats and strap in, please.
So I was close to my seat, so it was pretty easy for me to get back in. We practiced that a lot because, because you're weightless, there's no gravity to pull you into your seat. You have to pull yourself in. And they have those tail booms in the back pointed up. So it's like a badminton birdie, a shuttlecock, so that as it transitions from no air in the vacuum of space into the air, the tail booms guide it. That was a sign I made for my wife. The tail booms guide it so to make sure you're guaranteed it won't come in like sideways or backwards. Now the G's are starting to come on. We're hitting the atmosphere. My eyelids start to sag, and you can feel you can see my face start to droop a little bit. It builds up to about 4 Gs, 5 Gs there, very briefly. Like over the course of a minute, just kind of builds up, it hits a peak and then drops off again. As it starts getting into more and more into the air, you can see it kind of oscillate a little bit, kind of like, move back and forth a bit. I was saying I love you to my wife there.
65,000.
So that's how it takes from 45,000 to 65,000 back in. And then the rest, there's about 15, 20, I'll just skim through this, like 15, 20 minutes gliding, turns, chase plane, and yeah, this video is 15 minutes, 30 seconds from release to landing. So it's a pretty special 15 minutes. It's very quick.
I had a question. So you were talking about kind of training for
Yeah.
this whole flight. So can you describe what the training process was like?
Yeah, so at a minimum, they gave us 3 days. So you could show up at spaceport without having done anything and learn what you need about the spaceship. And we spent time like figuring out who's going to go where during weightlessness so that everybody's not like crowded in the same space. So optionally, you can do weightless flights, which I did twice, and a centrifuge training, which I did once. And in the centrifuge, they run you through the G load profile exactly the way you'll feel it during the flight. Over a couple of days, they run you first at half load, then full load. I wanted to do those and get those out of the way so I know how my body would react to those things. And then be more available for everything else that was happening. And mental training too, I think is really important. They don't talk about that a lot, but because I'd done a lot of these talks with students like for over 10 years, I got to thinking a lot about what happens on the space flight and how to make the most of that. Every second is precious. It's 3 minutes in a place where no one gets to go. It's like, how do you get the most out of that? Especially because you're going from the exhilaration of a rocket firing you through the atmosphere with three forces G, 3 times the force of gravity on you, pushing you back in your seat. And then the motor cuts off and instantaneously you're waiting and floating at a time that you want to be calm and like taking things in. So it's like two very different states of mind. So I worked a lot on how to be most present for that. Took a lot of deep breaths. During the flight, on the climb up and during the rocket flight, I was just trying to like be as calm as possible. Just not like, don't get all worked up, just kind of be present.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I know that you're like an educator for like space, like an ambassador for like NASA
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
How has like this experience changed the way you like interact with students, like your messaging wise?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks, Mason. How has it changed the way I interact with? Well, I think I could talk with more authenticity about what the Earth looks like. And, I could testify it is round. I've seen it. So yeah, I think it gives me kind of a little more unique perspective on things, and that's really helpful. It's meaningful. it's nice. It's different to say, oh yeah, people have gone to this place and here's what they think it's like, than being able to say, yeah, I went there and this is what it's like. So uh that's been really enjoyable to be able to share that. And I feel like I need to, like I should be doing that. There was a guy, Rusty Schweikart, who flew on Apollo 9 in Earth orbit. And there was a moment when he and his partner, say Dave Scott, same guy, um, were both outside. One was outside the command module. Oops, I'm getting balloons for some reason. They were both outside the spaceship, and Scott had a jam in his camera, and Rusty Schweikart was told, "Hey, go let Dave work the problem. Take a few minutes and just, you don't have to do anything." Which is like, that's never in the script. It's like there's nothing in the plan for space travel that says take 10 minutes and look at the Earth and think about what it means to you. I was like, they never write that in. It's like NASA astronauts, so it's like every second is like tasked. So Schweikart had this experience of being able to just like, wow, wait, I just get to go look at the Earth and look at the planet. He came back and talks about it in different ways. Like, he felt like he wasn't uniquely special. There were any number of people that could have done his job. He says, I'm trained, I'm doing this, but it's not impossible work. Any number of people could have done this, but he was just humanity's representative at that point in time. It's like whatever, you know, choices you make, options you take, directions or opportunities you take in life, however those worked out for him to be in that place worked out. And that's kind of the same thing for me. It's like, I didn't expect to be able to do this, but you know, it worked out. It worked out in a weird way, actually. I wasn't supposed to, the seat was actually assigned to somebody else. And they said to this woman, Ketty, hey, here's your flight. I can't make that date. Can I go later? And they said, okay. So she went on the next flight, and they sent a message out in August to the future astronaut community, said, hey, we're figuring out what to do with when we have an empty seat. We're going to ask you to pay more and click here for instrument. So I'm like, yeah, take me. And it was a, a big part of it was because I had done all these talks with students and with Galactic because I'm excited about space. I never did those things to like gain preference or try and, stand out in a certain way. I just did it because I love doing it. And it was really nice that it was like a symbiosis with Galactic, and that's the kinds of messages, they wanted to share with people. So when it came up for them to pick somebody, like without trying to, I made it really easy for them to pick me. So that's an argument for just do what you love doing, and you never know where it'll lead you. Like 20 years ago, the people that have flown and are going to fly and the people working for Galactic would never have guessed that they're doing what they're doing now. But, lo and behold, here you are. So you guys are all in high school, is that right?
Yeah, I am.
So, yeah. So I think, one thought is just like find something you love doing and be ready to work hard at being really good at it, and you'll find your place. I know it's confusing in high school because I always think like my kids are 35 and 32. It's like you feel like so much pressure in school, like you got to be good at English and science and in history and foreign language and math. It's like, but in real life, no one has all those things. You have your one or two things that you're really good at. Stick with those. You don't have to worry about not being the best at everything.
I mean, we all here are also like, I guess, in a way, uh, STEM educators for like
Mhm.
space tour nonprofit.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are like some, if you have any like guidance for us, sort of like, what are some things we can do to share your experience with other people as well.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, I think it's great that you're interested like you are. I mean, that puts you at the front of the line in terms of like space related options as you get older. It's, you know, what Galactic looks for, and I think all other companies too, is like, if they're hiring and if you're interested in seeing careers for them or any other company, just do a search for Virgin Galactic careers. And, I looked a couple weeks ago, they had a lot of engineering jobs, but you could see exactly what they're hiring, the kind of people they're hiring, what qualifications those people need, and you say, oh, that sounds pretty good. Maybe I could study this or study that. So like looking ahead like that is helps kind of you like refine options and what, might look good to you. You could see, oh, this thing, this opportunity requires an undergraduate degree. Oh, that one requires a graduate degree, and get a sense of, a pathway that sounds really good to you. Um, and outreach is great. Like, so I was like, one thing that Galactic and I'm sure other companies look for is people that have done extracurricular kinds of things. So it's not just taking the classes and getting good grades in the things that they're looking for. It's outside activities like starting a running club if you're a runner, or starting a rocket club. A lot of colleges have rocket clubs. Spaceport America has a rocket cup, where colleges from all over the world build their own rockets and them to like 50 or 80 kilometers, or maybe it's 30 and 50. They have they have a number of different parameters that, judge that determine success. So those kinds of things would help separate you from, others. Starting a space club, doing a blog, you know, writing, uh, putting together a website of favorite images or what you're looking at, uh, learning more about, dark matter or the universe or cosmological kinds of things. Planetary science, the science that's going on in the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, where they're going to be looking for life in the next, 20 years. They're just starting this mission called the Europa Clipper that's going to go to the Europa and look for life. Visit NASA facilities if you can. NASA Ames Johnson Kennedy Space Center. Find opportunities or any kind of space facility. Go to SpaceX and watch it launch. Go watch one of those things launch. That would be cool. They've only had 3 so far, but they want to have 9 this year.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And there's videos online too. It's amazing to see how they like flip and like glide and things like that.
It's extraordinary. It's such brilliant thinking. I was just reading today, I think today is the 7th anniversary of SpaceX launching a booster that had been used before. And they've done it over 200 times, I think, landed reusable boosters and completely changed. I saw an image that was adding up the tons of payloads sent to space in the fourth quarter 2023. So October, November, December, 3 months. SpaceX was like 350,000 tons. The next nearest one was the entire country of China, like less than a tenth of SpaceX. And then US space agencies and other rockets in like tiny little slivers. And the SpaceX is out here like this because they figured out how to flip a rocket around and land it and use it again. It's like totally changed the approach.
It's amazing because they basically set out to do what like Space Shuttle wanted to do, being reusable, things like that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they did it and much more too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
I have
with
a,
the, good. Yeah, go ahead.
I had a question, and if anyone else has a question, please feel free to always like unmute and put it in chat. But then a lot of people kind of, well, I work with a lot of students as part of Space Tourists, and we have some students up here, and
Mhm.
sometimes like, especially like right now with college decisions or just high school in general, sometimes we think, oh, we're kind of good at this math subject or we're good at this
Yeah,
science subject, and
yeah,
we encounter some sort of failure. So,
yeah.
what's one piece of advice that you would give to students who are facing such challenges?
Yeah, I worked I worked a lot with high school students, and I could see the pressures that most all are under. That's typical. And I would say don't be concerned about having to be good at everything. Enjoy the things you're good at. And, you will find your place, or your place will find you. You know, don't feel like you're locked into a certain track or pathway. Be open to any number of different changes. Maybe it's studying abroad, maybe it's going to college in Scotland, or who knows, something like that. Um, and yeah, like, don't be too concerned if you're not like A plus in every subject. It's okay uh, to be really good at just the things you love doing. Your pathway will, you know, you stay with that, and you'll find a good place, I think. Uh, does that kind of answer it?
Yeah, that answers
Yeah.
it. Mhm,
Okay.
that's good.
Okay.
And anyone, like, if you have any other questions, um, feel free to unmute and put them in chat.
Yeah.
I want to ask what you think the future of private space travel will look like.
Oh, bigger than we can than what we're thinking it right now. I think it's kind of a little kind of lying under the radar uh, of commercial space travel. Yeah, for right now, it's Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic doing commercial flights. Yes, you can buy a seat with Axiom to fly on the SpaceX to go to the space station for $50 million. Um, but that's a rare thing. But as Starship starts flying, and um, could be 1/10 the price or less, to go to orbit in 5 years or 10 years. Um, there are companies that are developing commercial space stations. Voyager Space Company, um, Blue Origin is developing its own space station, or called Orbital Reef. Um, for the first time, it's gone outside of government agencies like NASA or Japanese Space Agency, Canadian Space Agency, ESA, European Space Agency. And you're finding where commercial companies can fly people to space, could broker flights to space like Axiom is doing. They've created a company that kind of works with people that want to fly and the flight providers to help people fly. So it seems to me like, well, I don't want to say explode when you talk about spaceflight, but like an ever expanding array of opportunities.
Uh, I want to ask your opinion on as you mentioned, it's the phasing out of governmental space agencies. Do you think that's necessarily like a good or bad thing?
Oh, I think they're just taking different roles. I think the government agencies will always do the big things because that's where the big funding is. I mean, it's only been able to do by government agencies because that's, where you can get 5, 10 billion, 15, 20 billion dollars for a project. Um, I'm sure NASA will still take on those big projects like launching the James Webb Space Telescope or the next generation space telescope, or like this Europa Clipper that's, going to Europa, or going landing another rover on Mars. So it's just technologies and other opportunities are allowing commercial companies to get into the flying to space where they couldn't before.
I also know that like NASA does a lot of commercial programs. They like outsource a lot of their things to like cut costs and things like that.
Yeah, and they kind of did even back in Apollo, like the Apollo moon rocket was built by like companies in all 50 states. It's like 400,000 people working for Grumman Aircraft Company in New York built the lunar module on Long Island. People working for McDonnell Douglas and for Boeing built different parts of it. So that's
I
kind
know
of,
like yeah,
yeah,
sorry to
good.
cut you off. I know
No,
that like a month ago they had like a lunar lander
yeah,
that was privately built.
yeah. There's been a few haven't done so well, haven't fared
Yeah,
so well. The Peregrine, the Israel had a lunar lander. India has a lander that was successful with a rover. Um, so yeah, they need help there. So that there's an assignment for you. Go help those people do it right next time.
do you think competition is a good thing in this industry, or would you prefer like collaboration?
Hmm. I think well, I think the competition certainly fueled like help Galactic and Blue do these suborbital flights. It seems like it can't be completely collaborative because each company has its own profit motive. Um, so you need a little bit of both. You need some collaboration, but in a commercial sense, you can't collaborate so much because you need to have your unique uh, kinds of
Definitely, yeah.
assets.
They need
Yeah.
to keep their margin. And
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. They
I
can't
mean,
share
if
their
you look at
secrets.
like
Yeah.
SpaceX and like Starship, don't you think they'll have sort of like a monopoly over space travel tourism?
Yeah. It's kind of a near monopoly now. If you just do, let me see. If you just do a search for uh, like tons launched to space, 2023. Let's see what we got. Yeah. You can find some things to kind of compare. Like I was saying, it's like SpaceX is this much, but in China it's like 1/10. So yeah, I'm just looking at a Wikipedia article that's got way too much detail. But yeah, it's a good thing. I think it's a really good thing that have all these companies involved in doing it on a commercial scale because people really need to get a sense of what our planet is. I think in the long run, it's really going to help the planet.
Where do you see this industry like going in the next 10, 20, 30 years?
Boy, it's hard to see. Um, I would not bet against SpaceX having success with Starship based on what they've done with the Falcon 9, which is a much smaller rocket. And once you cut the cost to orbit by a 10th or 20th, or it opens up all kinds of things, small satellites and communications and people flying to space and science that you can do from orbit. Yeah, like a mushrooming, expanding kind of possibilities that we haven't seen before. And it's just kind of like starting to grow.
Definitely. I know like in the past you've done like education on like rovers and things like that. Do you
Yeah,
see humans going to Mars at all
yeah, for
in
sure.
our lifetime?
Yeah, yeah. there's something innate about humans that we just want to go see what's out there. There's some science arguments that say no, it's like why would you could get very much of the same science done for 1/10 of the cost with a robot. But you look at how much ground the Perseverance rover has covered. It's not a long way. It's if humans could walk it, they could cover more ground much faster. And there's something about having eyes on in the situation that adds an understanding or a capability that you don't get from a camera. It takes a picture people look at on the Earth and then decide.
Definitely.
So there's a human element that you can't duplicate that I think you need to have on Mars.
I also have another question. So like,
Yeah.
what is your perspective on this debate where it's like why spend resources to colonize other planets when
Yeah.
our planet itself isn't the best shape it might be?
Yeah, I'm all for exploration and finding that out. As far as the idea of like going to live on Mars, I'm not so sure about that. Maybe on the moon you could do science. That's close enough. I don't know. It seems to me like the idea of colonizing Mars is a little too much because we've got a really good planet right here. It's like people ask me would I like to go to Mars? It's like I don't think so. I like Earth a lot. It's pretty cool here. There's a lot of things about Earth that are really nice that you don't get on Mars. So I'm not that much of an explorer. So I think you need to do things like understand asteroids and develop the capability to find asteroids that are more capabilities. They're doing pretty well now, but find asteroids that could cause catastrophes on Earth and find ways to divert them. They say the dinosaurs didn't have a space program, so they got wiped out by asteroids. Let's not do that.
So Shaban has a question in chat, and she said, "What's
Right.
your opinion on
Right.
people visiting space? Will it be like airplanes and a slowly deteriorating experience?"
That's a good question, Sean. People visiting space, great idea. More people should do it. Highly recommended. I wish you all could go like tomorrow. And I think it's good for humans to understand their environment because you can't really get a sense of the planet from the ground that you do from up there. And will it be like airplanes? I think that's everyone's idea, and thinking that it will be like airplanes and that space travel will be, maybe in 20, 30 years, similar to getting on an airplane today, where you go on you book a ticket from a space line like an airline that flies from a spaceport like an airport. And will it be a deteriorating experience? That's an interesting question. I'm not so sure it will. I think it's still extraordinary enough to be, a life-changing experience, whether 10 people do it or 100 people do it or 1,000 or 10,000. So the definition of astronaut might deteriorate a little bit because like you have this idea of the astronauts as being really special things, and they are because they've had all that training and their communication skills and visual skills and mechanical skills are extraordinary that I don't have, that we don't that we people those of us that just bought a ticket to go on a flight and we were there for 3 minutes and came back down, that we don't have. So the definition of astronaut might kind of deteriorate over time. So we'll see. Oh, yes. Did I take anything to space? Yes. And I don't have a lot of that with me. I just moved houses instead of my old house. But yeah, I could take like a 1 quart Ziploc. I took 2 1 quart Ziploc bags in my pockets. So I took some patches and cards. I had some cards made with this message for students to give away. And on the other side is our mission logo. So I give these to people from time to time when I see them. And I had a Galactic, I had a patch, a mission patch, a sticker that Galactic, they actually tucked these away from me on the spaceship. So I brought pictures of my kids and my family, some little trinkets, a little toy like this, some patches. I brought something very personal. I had my passed away in 2019, and I had a small vial of her ashes saved, and I wore those around my neck so she was with me. And then my dad passed away in 1985, and I had his wedding ring. So I wore his wedding ring to space and then gave it to my son after we landed. So those were 2 really special things. So that, that could be his and it could happen.
Were you at any point like scared that something might go wrong, or did you fully trust Galactic?
So I think, was I scared? No. People ask me that, and I had to think. It's like, God, was I scared? No, I don't think I was. When I think about it, I felt like when I bought my ticket with Galactic in 2010, I said, okay, I'm going with you. I'm trusting you. I have confidence that you're going to do your absolute best to make it as safe as possible, and I'm going to go. Like, I made my decision. And then on the day of the flight, I was just confident that things were going to go fine. And then to be as open as possible to the experience, I didn't want to be up there thinking, what was that noise? Did the pilots do the right thing? No, it's like, is everything going right over there? I didn't want to go up there thinking about, kind of what ifs or things that might make me afraid. So I was really trying to be as focused and present in the experience as I could. So
If anyone has any last minute questions, I think now would be like a good time to put them in chat or maybe unmute. And I'll just give a couple of seconds for that.
yeah. How many of you would like to go to space if you could? Yeah. I think there's something in human nature that's just like, yeah, I want to go see that. I want to go do that. Good, Aisha. Glad to hear it. Right. Show on, same.
Okay,
Am
so
I saying your names right?
oh,
Those of you that are off, I'm curious. It's important for me to get names right, so I don't want to be guessing. Aisha and Anahid and Shoban, is it? Anyway. Go ahead and correct me if you'd like.
okay, just like a last minute call for questions. I don't want to like not ask anyone's question at all. So I'll just give a couple of more seconds, but if not, I just want to take time to, thank you, Ron. Like honestly, we all have these aspirations of kind of going into STEM and hearing someone who actually went to space and saw Earth. I mean, we all think astronauts are so cool, no matter what. And
Yeah.
so it's really nice to have someone to take time out of their day to talk to us, kind of answer our questions and motivate us in a way,
Right.
it really does impact students because, suppose we're on, this really hard, we just finished this really hard test and we're like, I want to quit STEM. We just think about a time when, you said those wise words to us and these experiences and interactions really do matter. So I guess we don't have any other questions. So I guess this concludes the meeting. So again, thank you everyone
Okay.
for coming and especially thank you, Ron.
Well, thanks for taking your time. It's been great talking with you, and love to check in again, City, later this year, next year. We can keep this on rotation.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.